Hello and welcome to Meet Our Makers, an artist interview podcast produced in association with Beats Per Minute. I'm your host, Jeremy J. Facette, and on this episode, we get to meet Jens Lekman. Jens is a singer-songwriter from Sweden who has been working for a couple decades now, building these worlds of quirky, humorous, but also quite melancholy and sort of literate indie pop tunes, and now has a brand new record out called Songs for Other People's Weddings, which is also the name of a novel by author David Levithan. The two of them collaborated on this project together to build this full narrative of this man named Jay, who is not so subtly in reference to Jens, who is a wedding singer and kind of tracks the sort of on again, off again, slightly tumultuous love story between him and a character named V, who is voiced on this album by Matilda Sargren. And in this chat, Jens and I go pretty deep into this record, the backstory of it, what led to him and David working together on this multimodal, extensive narrative project. We talk about how Jens doesn't really like quote-unquote story albums, but challenged himself to make it anyway, leaning into that discomfort. We talk about the use of humor in his songs, especially dark or bleak humor. We talk about the concept of fact in fiction and how fiction might be better at telling fact than nonfiction sometimes. We also talk about his actual real live side job as a wedding singer and much more. So I was delighted to have him. I've been listening to him for a very long time, so I was very excited that he came on and sat with me for a little while. So thank you for listening. This is me meeting Jens Lekman. Pretty good. How are you?
I am good. Sorry, my voice is a little bit weird. I've had a cold for 2 weeks.
Oh no.
But I'm better.
Yeah, I was gonna say hopefully you're on the mend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for coming and hanging out for a little while, despite that.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. No, it's a pleasure. We should say right away the impetus for inviting you is that you have a new record out, or almost out, on September 12th called Songs for Other People's Weddings, out on Secretly Canadian. It's not every year that we get to say there's a new Jens Lekman record. It's been about 8 years, I think, since the last fully new solo LP. So how has it been going for you and feeling as you kind of get back into this whole process?
It feels good. Sorry. There's been a pandemic and there's been a bunch of tours with youth orchestras and reissues and re-recordings and stuff like that. So it's not like I've been completely gone since then, but yeah, it feels good.
And is it? Yeah, I mean, you have been working. Obviously, you're kind of always doing something. But does it feel different when there's an album, a new album? Does that feel any different, or is it just sort of like another part of the process?
It's yeah. There's more touring. There's more press. There's more stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah. And with this record specifically, and we'll get into the sort of, I guess, more personal side in a little bit. But for this record specifically, you are releasing it sort of in conjunction with this novel from you and David Levithan, which is also called Songs for Other People's Weddings, which is out soon, actually early August, whereas the record's out in September. But can you just sort of, for those who don't know, can you just sort of give us a rundown on what is the story of Songs for Other People's Weddings? You know, the characters of the narrative. Like, what are we contending with this album cycle?
Well, there's There's a wedding singer named Jay who is obviously kind of based on me. And then there's, I'm not sure how much I should reveal because there's a couple of twists that, but I can tell you that he's in a long-term relationship with this woman named V. We've intentionally left their names out to make them a little bit more, I don't know, I guess because I didn't want there to be a guy named Jens. I wanted him to be an elevated version of myself rather than me.
Mm-hmm.
So we named him Jay, as in the letter J, and then I guess it was natural that the partner would be V, or would also be just a letter, and the story takes place over 10 weddings, over 10 chapters, where Jay writes songs for these different couples that he is to play for. And these weddings reflect the relationship between him and V. That's the basic plot, I would say.
Yeah, and it seems like the character of V, at least in Jay's estimation, is sort of potentially slipping away, and maybe he's trying to navigate that because there's also a lot of travel in this set of songs. I mean, you go from, one country to the next to the next. There's at least 3 different countries represented on this album. Is he like following her throughout this narrative?
Yeah, I mean, she moves to New York quite early in the story,
Right.
for a career opportunity, and there's a little bit of a cat and mouse chase in there, I would say. It's sort of like but he also has to travel for the weddings that he's doing.
Right. So the album is its own thing. Obviously, the novel is its own thing, but they do feed into each other. How did this process begin? Was it you and David together kind of hatching this plan, or did one of you come to the other?
Well, this story, I've been working on this since 2017, when just after the last real album, so to say. And so it's been a long process. Initially, it was a TV show that I was working on with a film director. And, TV shows, there's a million of them that never happen.
Yeah.
As of producers and stuff. And when it didn't happen, I turned to David, and he came up with the idea of writing this story and having this collaboration where I would send him songs and then he would write the chapters backwards from that. So it started from that, and I wanted to I wanted the songs to just become the album. The songs that he writes in the book would just be the album. But after about half of the chapters, I started realizing that this is going to be a really weird album. It's not going to make any sense at all in this day and age when, everything is, you just listen to songs on streaming and it just pops up. Here's a new song from this artist. So to make things even more complicated, when the book comes out on August 5th, it will be accompanied by 17 songs that are not the album.
Oh.
But those songs are the songs that he writes in the book.
Okay.
So those are like acoustic songs mostly. And some of those songs are on the album. But I realized at some point halfway through the process that I needed to make a different kind of album. And that's when this little voice popped up in my head and said, have you thought about making a rock opera? And that little voice is popping up now and then, and it's just a silly voice. But when it pops up, if I'm feeling embarrassed about it from the very start, then I know it's the right direction.
So the 17 songs that accompany the release of the novel, those are supposed to be the songs that Jay writes within the novel, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
And then a few of those wound up on your album, which also includes songs that are not the ones he writes in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Excellent.
I'm trying to untangle it here. Because it is, you mentioned the thing about streaming and how if you hear, one or two songs from this in isolation, it might be sort of weird. I was thinking of that already when you put out the first single, because I was listening. At that point I had listened to the record once through, and I was like, I don't know how you could even select a single outside of maybe stylistic reasoning. Because yeah, it does hang together. There's a real arc here. Is the album, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but is the album in narrative sequence?
The album is, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because it ends with sort of, I mean, again, not to spoil anything, which usually I don't have to worry about, but there is a real narrative here. But it ends with sort of a conclusive moment, I'd say, and sort of, I'm hesitating on which adjective to use, but sort of like a looking forward kind of moment that feels earned, after the arc of this character. So you on the record, you are voicing, even though the songs aren't all from the book, you are voicing Jay on these songs. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. The album is like the first person perspective,
Right.
where I'm playing Jay, you could say,
Right.
which is a little bit weird because Jay is based on me, but it makes sense. And in the book, there's how do you say it? Like an all-knowing narrator.
Like
it's David's
like an
voice.
omniscient.
Omniscient, exactly. So that's David's voice, and everyone's in third person.
Okay. And then on the record, we also have Matilda Sargren, who voices V. She shows up a few times here and there at these sort of pivotal moments, sometimes taking over lead vocals. Was that always sort of the plan to have the two characters' voices on this record in some way?
I think so. Once the idea of making something like a rock opera or narrative concept album, then it seemed a little bit weird to not hear from V. I think this was because as we were editing the book, we were developing V more and more and giving more and more reasons to why she was, making the decisions that she was making. And as I was hearing more of her voice in the book, she started appearing more and more on the album as well.
Yeah. We'll get a little more into her character later, but I'm curious, just while we're still talking on collaboration, obviously you offered certain perspectives, David offered certain perspectives, and you guys kind of twisted those together to make this story and to make this book and this album. But I'm especially curious about tone here because while I have not read the book yet, it's not out yet. Some of the things that the songs talk about, it goes to some pretty melancholy places. There's a lot of heartbreak and touching moments here. But there's also a lot of sort of dark humor and funny allusions and similes and metaphors, which feels very much like you. That feels like your bag. So how did you and David kind of reach a decision on tone and balancing that tone? I mean, would you say the book mirrors the tone of the album?
I think that was a point of conflict for us in a way, not like an aggressive conflict, but there were. I think David. There were a few things that he didn't want to put in the book. I make a joke about the human centipede, for example. He was grossed out by that, and I respect him for that. So no, I think the album is more my tone, and some of that made it into the book for sure. I mean, when I started writing the album, I would send songs to David, and he was like, "Oh, I liked how you went behind the scenes with this. Maybe I'll incorporate that into the book." And so some of that, like Wedding in Leipzig, for example, made it into the book, and Two Little Pigs, the way that they are teasing each other in that song, that also made it into the book.
And did his writing lead to any songs of yours?
Yeah, I mean the album is based on his general narrative.
Okay.
And I picked I wanted the album and the book to, I wanted the album to be based on the book, and so I picked a few moments that I felt were important to keep for the narrative, like On a Pier on the Hudson, for example, is a very dramatic and delicate moment in the book, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned you started the beginnings of writing out some of these songs back in 2017. Here we are in 2025 and it's coming out now, but I'm curious how long you think roughly it took to create this album and this whole process. And I ask not only just because of the collaboration, but it is your longest record by a pretty decent margin. And it's one of your most, if not your most, instrumentally dense. I mean, some of these arrangements are very layered, complex, a lot of players on this record. So how long was this process?
It was, me and David started working together 4 years ago. And I was busy at that time making the re-recordings of my old records. I had a few songs by then, but most of the work was done the last 2 years. And I don't have a life outside of this. So for me, it was just, I've been I haven't had a day off since, I had a day off on Christmas Eve, but apart from that, I've been working nonstop, really.
Yeah.
For the last 2-3 years.
So how long has this record been ready?
It was finished in March, I think.
Okay. That's a pretty quick turnaround.
So
that's nice. When you finish an album, especially one of this sort of magnitude, is there any moment you get of sort of just calm or relief, or is it sort of on to the next thing?
No, now I have a million questions like how the hell do I perform this live, for example?
I also have that question.
So I've been working nonstop on that since then, and all the other stuff, doing interviews and taking press photographs, and this is why I have this cold now, because I am completely exhausted. I need a vacation.
You do. I mean, your tour doesn't start for a little bit, although you are on the book tour.
Yeah, no, I have no time off.
Oh no.
Maybe 2027.
Yeah, maybe then. Eat a lot of oranges between now and then.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's funny you bring up touring. I did have that question down there on my notes, because it is such a complicated record. I mean, obviously you sing on almost every song. If Matilda's not singing on it, you play something on. I don't think there's any songs you just sing. But you're far from the only player here. So like, I mean, are you envisioning that there's a full band? Do you have to make new arrangements for these songs? I mean, how do you whittle that down?
Well, first of all, there's no budget really. So I've structured the tour around weddings that I'm playing, because there's a reason why I play weddings, and it's because it pays much better than playing shows or releasing albums. And that's one reason. And so I don't have much of a budget, but I have envisioned me plus 3 or 4 musicians. So everyone will be very busy playing lots of different instruments.
Yeah. I feel like unless you are playing to a backing track, I feel like that's how it has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. were there any? I was curious as I was listening to some of these songs, especially the ballads, because there's a sort of like classic kind of old school vibe to a lot of those ballads on this record. Were there any touchstones or sources of inspiration, musical or otherwise, that sort of helped you sculpt out the story or the sound of these songs?
Yeah, but they were kind of all over the place.
Hmm.
I think when I was writing this, I was more focused on the story and what a narrative concept album was. So for me, I try to scope out what other artists had made these kind of albums, and I don't like musicals, and I don't really like rock operas either. But I found I realized that one of my favorite records, Frank Sinatra's Watertown, is actually a narrative concept album. And so I listened a lot to that when I was making this. And another kind of more unexpected inspiration was maybe The Streets, A Grand Don't Come for Free, which is also a narrative concept album, which is really interesting when you look at the story in it, all the twists and turns in that story. So those two records were definitely an inspiration for this. And then I think it was just whatever. I mean, I've been doing this for so many decades now that there's always like a melody in my head or something, and I'm not really sure where it comes from. I don't. It's like a craft or something, It's just in my fingers. So it's not like I listen to music to get inspiration for that. It's just I'm going to write a song and then I write it.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned that you're not like a huge fan of rock operas or story albums, even though, as you mentioned, you found a couple or found out that a couple you like are those things. But your songs in the past have often had a narrative element to them, but have they usually been a little bit more autobiographical, or do you think you've written sort of the fictional side as well?
I will usually use the term emotionally autobiographical, but I never write about something I haven't felt or experienced in some way. But I think ever since my first album, I haven't been very interested in the strictly autobiographical. When I started writing songs, I was inspired by a new wave of graphic novels in Sweden, which were highly autobiographical. The whole scene was about, basically people publishing their own diaries. And there was a connection between these people who made these graphic novels and people who were making music. They were often like part of the same crowd. But at some point I just became less interested in. I think it was because there was so much focus on authenticity and especially about trauma and like exposing your the horrible things that you had experienced, and it just made me turned off from the whole autobiographical thing. And I always felt like fiction does an equally good job in telling, in portraying the autobiographical, because it's often how you wish things would have been. And I think that says something about what you experienced as well.
Yeah, like you say, like emotionally autobiographical, meaning that the songs might be capturing an experience or a feeling that you can relate to, but the plot, so to speak, is fictional.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you say that that holds true here, or were you purposely sort of divorcing yourself from this new record?
I think it's true for the album. The book is more complicated because it's written by David.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the book, I've always wondered, like, I wonder if this is what David experienced, and I wonder if he sees himself in one of these characters.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the album, I felt like it was important to me to put a bit of my own experiences and my own self into these songs. And I think that's why the album differs a little bit from the book.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe even explains the sort of tonal shift, because like we said, like there is a lot more, I think, that dark, biting, sarcastic humor on this record than maybe there is in the novel. Yeah,
for sure.
So there is a lot to pick apart on this record. Obviously, it's about 80 minutes long. It's 17 songs, I think. It's very layered. There's different parts and different narrative touch points, but there were a few songs that I kind of wanted to pick apart a little, if that's okay. One being the one you already mentioned, Wedding in Leipzig, which is over 10 minutes long. I think it's your longest song on a record yet. First of all, I'm curious how this song came to even be the sort of giant that it is. I mean, was this always intended to be like a big song? Is this some sort of turning point in the narrative?
I think this song came to be when we were at chapter 6 and we were talking about what was going to happen in chapter 7. And David asked me to write down a few things that had happened to me at weddings to give him some inspiration. And when I wrote them down, I realized that there was a story in it. So I sent him a bunch of fragments that, but as I was doing that, I started humming this melody in my head, and I started realizing that this is probably going to turn into a song. I'll just write it for fun. And I think I had Lou Reed's song "Street Hassle" in my mind at that point. Just this. There's this feeling in me that this song needs to tell me when it's done. It can be as long as it wants to be. If it's going to be over 10 minutes long, that's fine. Because I had so many anecdotes and so many little things that I wanted to write about. And then I just started writing it. And then when David was done with the chapter, it turns out that we had written the same story. Out of these fragments and anecdotes.
It's yeah, because that is kind of what it feels like. It's like this series of anecdotes, but within the narrative of this song, it's like all at this one wedding where Jay is seated at this singles table with the like freaks, quote unquote, from the wedding. It is one of the funniest songs, I think. On the record. I mean, there's a line where you compare people to Patty and Selma from The Simpsons. There's some really bleak humor, but there's also this line where where Jay basically says the reason why he sings at weddings is because it makes him feel like a midwife. Is that at all comparative to how you feel? Because I mean, you have been singing at weddings for years. So I mean, is that actually like a true sentiment that you share?
Yeah, for sure. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah.
I feel like I am, part of this very important moment in people's lives. And then they vanish. It's this feeling of being in the middle of everything, but at the same time at the side. Like, I think this is one of the key points of the story, that there's an element of feeling like an observer or like you're a bystander. like you're part of it, but at the same time you're just someone standing by the side watching it.
Mm. And at one point in this song, I had this highlighted. I thought it was very funny that he's DJing and he's trying to decide on a song and he's mulling through Young Hearts Run Free, which I imagine is the Candy Staten song.
Mm-hmm.
And then With Every Heartbeat, which I presume is the Robin song.
Mm-hmm.
Both songs so inappropriate, which he realizes. But it's just like these funny little moments that I feel they reveal so much about the characterization. I would imagine that you and David would agree that you guys both created and characterized Jay. I mean, I would imagine this is one of your details for him and kind of, because it says so much about him at this point in the story.
Yeah, I mean that thing happened to me
Yeah.
at a wedding once. But yeah, I mean it's also for me one of the more personal songs. I had a lot of fun writing it, but it was also a time in my life when I thought a lot about loneliness and what it means to be alone. And I think I sort of invented Selma. Her name is not Selma in the book, but I wanted to keep that reference to Patty and Selma. I kind of invented her as this part of a dialogue that I had in my own mind with myself at the time of what it means to be alone.
So after this song, we get a little instrumental, and then we get sort of V's big song. At least that's how I see it, which is You Have One New Message. To me, I mean, I won't go into too much because again, we're dealing with a narrative here, so we don't want to spoil too much. But V has this sort of solo ballad where she is within the narrative. She is leaving the song as a voicemail for Jay, who is listening to it, and it is quite sad. It is quite revealing. Did you? I mean, I want to ask like how this song came to be, but what I really mean by that, I guess, is you're writing this song for another voice. Is that ever tricky for you?
Yeah, it was very hard. And I mean, the idea from the beginning wasn't that Matilda was going to sing
Right.
the songs. I was going to find someone more famous. I wanted to have like a name,
Celine
someone,
Dion.
maybe not Celine Dion, but at least someone who was, could be someone who was about on the same level as me, maybe. But and I tried a whole bunch. I'm not gonna say who, but I tried a whole bunch of singers, and no one could really sing them like Matilda did. But yeah, it was very difficult. Just finding the tone, and I mean, Matilda is a very she can sing really strong,
Yeah.
and I had to tell her to hold back for especially that song, to make it more, what's the word, vulnerable. I wanted it to be more, yeah.
Yeah, because it is this sort of like, end of the night kind of ballad, but and it's powerful, but there is a restraint to it. I mean, I could see how someone could go very over the top with a song like this, and I don't think she does.
No.
But it is this sort of really important moment for her character, for your character, and for the narrative as a whole, which really does lead us into the final moments of the record. I mean, it really changes the end, like the tone as we enter the ending of the record. Because then we get the final song, the last love song. Is this supposed to be the song that Jay mentions at the end of For Just One Moment?
Yeah, correct.
Right.
There's a few songs on the album where Jay is writing the next song on the
Right.
album.
Okay. Um, so he is singing this song at a wedding.
Yes.
That feels very fitting, just given everything that's happened. I mean, even the title, the last love song, this is the last one I'll ever sing. Every love song is a curse. There's such a like, I don't know, there's like a darkness to the lyric of the song, but I wouldn't say the album ends in a pessimistic light.
No, I'm
Um,
playing with that contrast in that song, I would
yeah,
say.
because I mean, Wedding in Leipzig ends. I was surprised. It took me by surprise that after 10 and a half minutes, it ends on a really minor note.
Yeah.
And then leads us into this sort of more sad, downcast ending section of the album. But then this closer, it doesn't leave you feeling beaten down, after this long winding narrative with all these sort of emotional gut punches and twists and turns. It doesn't leave you that way. So I would imagine, is that a tricky contrast to strike?
No, not really. I mean, I think that this is how my songwriting often works.
Mm,
I think this is also why I'm not a writer. This is why I'm a songwriter, because I like working with the contrast of music and lyrics. And so often I feel like you can write something in one tone and then like the lyrics, and then you can have the music in a completely different tone, and they will create this wonderful dissonance. I don't think that's what it's like on the last love song, but working with contrasts like that have always been part of my songwriting.
mm. Um, without spoiling anything or getting too concrete, where did you feel like you were leaving Jay at the end of this record?
I think that he's not necessarily at a good point, but he's learned a few things, and he's embracing. I mean, I can't really reveal that the last love song is a song about embracing change to some extent,
Mm,
and I think that's where I leave him in that song. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I kind of get that because I think that's what I meant when I was saying like it's not a pessimistic ending. It does feel, if not hopeful, it feels open to hope, I guess.
Yeah. It's a
Whereas some
song
of the
called Changes.
right, whereas some of the songs that preceded it, Jay probably feels a bit more, like I said, beaten down or a bit more discouraged. But by the end, I don't know, there's like I guess a certain level of acceptance that happens at the end here.
I think this part is maybe a bit clearer in the book,
Hmm.
and I think it's you don't have to read the book to understand the album, maybe, but I do think that it's interesting to take part of them both together, to because they are sort of in dialogue with each other as well.
Yeah. Are the 17 songs that make up the actual sort of like soundtrack for the book that Jay writes, are the lyrics in the book?
Yes, they
Yeah.
are.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious to check out the book when it's out. You said August 6th it's out.
August 5th.
5th. Okay. Yes. No, I'm curious to check that out because I mean David Levithan also is sort of known for collaborating, but I think this is the first time he's collaborated with a musician.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing because I mean, did you guys knew each other before this?
Yeah, so he wrote me just after my first album came out, and he sent me his book and said, "I was listening to your album when I wrote this book,"
Mm,
and we've been corresponding a bit since then, and the last couple of years we've been picking it up.
yeah. Was it I mean, you are no stranger to collaboration in the sense that you've worked with many musicians and singers. I mean, beyond Matilda, you also have Owen Pallett on this record. Um, in the past, you've worked with many guest singers and musicians and producers and all that over the years. But did this feel like a sort of new endeavor for you?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It scared the hell out of me the way that it was. It just felt like. But I think that was also necessary for me. I think the worst thing I could imagine was to sit down and just write 10 songs for an album and then release it on streaming.
Yeah.
I think there's something about the way we listen to music today that just makes me. I haven't given up on the idea of making my next record a 10-song album, but I needed to make something right now that was something very different than that.
Yeah. That makes sense. You mentioned too, and we've talked about already a little bit, but you do actually perform at weddings. I know that's kind of a big piece of the lore of this of this album cycle. I don't know that I knew that, and I feel like I have been following your albums at least since Cortadala came out. But can you kind of just briefly explain how you came to that?
Yeah, there was a song on my first album called "If You Ever Need a Stranger to Sing at Your Wedding," and it wasn't the most popular song, and it wasn't one of my favorite songs, but it strangely worked as an advertisement. People took it very seriously, even though it wasn't meant to be. And people started getting in touch saying, getting married, this summer, and could you come and play? And when those offers started coming in, I just thought, wow, that's an interesting idea. Maybe I'll do that just to check it out. And initially, it was just, something nice that I wanted to do for my listeners. It was just this. I've always wanted my music to function on that level of being personal and close and maintaining this contact with the listeners. And then over the years, the offers kept coming in, and as streaming took over, it just became this way of actually staying afloat financially. And over the years, I've just become really good at it, and I really like it. And then I started writing wedding songs for people. I don't always do that. I did it mostly during the pandemic, but that was also something that sort of kept my inspiration going, because if I sit down and think I'm going to write my next hit single, then nothing comes out. But sometimes I just I take these jobs of writing songs for friends or for couples, and it sort of frees my inspiration a bit. So some of the wedding songs I've written over the years have become real songs later.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there's any that you've written for a couple that ended up on a record.
Well, they've been melodies have appeared in later songs for sure.
Yeah,
and little snippets of lyrics and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, when I was listening to this new album, it reminded me of the Wedding in Finisterre song from the last record. Is that so? But now I'm left wondering, is that song like a true story?
It's emotionally autobiographical.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, it's just such an interesting endeavor, I would imagine, because I mean, when your first record came out, well, first of all, how long after that was it that people started enlisting you?
Oh, right away.
Right away. So like when that record came out, I mean, it was well received, but it's not, I don't know how it was in Scandinavia, but in the States it was well received, but I wouldn't have necessarily said you became like a celebrity from that record. So it is interesting to then like immediately have this line of request come in from people, especially given that it's sort of, I don't know, I feel like Wedding Singer is kind of one of those things that most contemporary musicians wouldn't do, or at least not just for anyone. and I'm sure you don't do it just for anyone, but you know, you've made kind of a secondary career out of it. What do you enjoy about it beyond the financial angle?
Well, first of all, I like to put myself in very uncomfortable situations. It's a form of self-harm, I guess. But I like when I'm singing at weddings, as I sing in the first song, "You're not the star of the night," and I kind of enjoy that feeling of being to the side of being an observer at these places. I like observing the couples, not in like a detached, cool, cold way, but I like, sneaking into these families and relationships and stuff like that. It's definitely inspiring if you're a writer of love songs like me. And you never know what it's going to be like. I like that excitement. If you play a show at a normal venue, it can be different, but there's a formula to those shows in one way. It's hard to break out of the usual, like you arrive, you set up your stuff, you sound check, and then you come out and play, and you try to establish some sort of intimacy with the crowd. But at weddings, you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes there will be an angry uncle trying to punch me because I don't play Beatles covers. Sometimes, I will end up skinny dipping with the bride and the groom after the show. Lots of just weird stuff happening. And sometimes it's kind of boring, but still nice.
Yeah.
I'll go there and I'll play in a little country church in the countryside, and it's beautiful. And then I check into my little bed and breakfast, and I watch a TV show or read a book and then fall asleep.
Yeah. Can you recall like the strangest or most fun wedding you've performed at?
Well, I've signed a couple of NDAs. I've played a couple of billionaire weddings, for example. Those have been weird, but I can't really tell you much about them. For example, that's not on the album actually, but there's a scene in the book where I didn't know when I showed up that I was supposed to jump out of a cake. And they thought this was a really fun thing, but they forgot to make air holes in the cake. So I more or less passed out from lack of oxygen within the cake, and they had to drag me out of it covered in cream. That was, that's a weird story that happened. What else?
Risk of the job, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you ever performed an original song you wrote for the event that was not like well received?
Yeah, sometimes like there will be one person, like either the bride or the groom.
Yeah.
If it's a straight couple, but like one of the people in the couple will book me. And they are so sure that everyone will love me, and then it turns out that everyone's like, why did they book this guy? Everyone's disappointed. So it's happened, but mostly if the guests feel that if they feel like I'm there for a reason, then they will at least be polite and applaud.
Right.
I think the worst thing is when someone thought it was a good idea to have me play in the background for like cocktail hour or something. That doesn't really work well with my songs.
Well, you obviously you have kind of intertwined in some ways, your expertise of wedding singing and performing with this character. And it sounds like it was really a pretty equal partnership between you and David. Yeah. So this new record, Songs for Other People's Weddings, out September 12th. The novel is out sooner, written with David Levithan. You are touring, whether you have yet figured out exactly how, but you are touring this record soon. Do you? I would think it would even be hard to envision how to play these songs alongside older songs, or maybe it's not.
I'm thinking there will be a first set with just songs from this album.
Yeah.
Like a shortened version of the album. And then, an encore with some of the oldies.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the main set will be like the ceremony of a wedding, and the encore would be like the wedding after party.
Oh, I like that idea. And you're also going along with David on the book tour. Are you going the whole book tour?
I think he's doing more dates than I am. But
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So yes, Songs for Other People's Weddings, out September 12th on Secretly Canadian. Thank you so much, Jens. This was lovely.
Thanks. It was nice talking to you.
You as well. Feel better.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.